Welcome. It is Tuss Talk with Ty live. Back-to-back days. Yesterday we had the wonderful, awesome Courtney Mims, and today we've got, this will not be his first time on the show, on the live show. Mason Choate will be joining us from hogbeat.com over at Rivals. We've had him on. He always kills it. Very extremely informative. I always like his takes. I always do. He's someone that knows what he's talking about. He goes to practice. I see him every day I'm at practice. I don't think he misses a day. But while we wait on him, just a few minutes here, let's give a shout out first off to sponsors. Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company. They offer same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes, better than best results. Their link is provided for you down below in the description box, but you can always get a hold of them, 501-244-3667, and they do operate out of Central Arkansas and in Northwest Arkansas. Affordable outcomes, right? Same-day services, and they'll come give you a free estimate. They'll tell you what's going on with your door and give you a free estimate. Also, Insurance Max. Shout out to Wes and the boys. Business, personal, life and health insurance, retirement. They shop the best rates for you, covering all four corners of the state of Arkansas. Give them a call, and you can always check out their link that is also provided for you down below. Down below. Okay, Patreon supporters also. You've still got a little bit of time, but if you haven't yet, you've got a shot signing up for legendary status, and you have an opportunity of winning one of four, because we're doing 4 giveaways, 4 different winners for legendary status members, 4 cards, autographed. Well, 3 of them are autographed, and we have the Darren McFadden game jersey, game worn. It's fabric from a game worn jersey. We've got the Tyler Wilson, the honor guard. This card is so cool. The honor guard card. That's just 2 of them. Then you got Jamal Anderson autographed foil card, and of course Matt Jones in his Jaguar jersey, autographed. That's our first Matt Jones and Jamal Anderson, I'm pretty sure. I think we've given away a Tyler Wilson autographed card, former Arkansas player card. Do me a favor if you're hopping in here, please like, share, subscribe. Feel free to cut some clips if you want. Share across social media. I'm probably going to give you some bonus XP if you're a Discord member and you cut some clips up and you post them on social media. Maybe I'll give you some XP. In fact, I think I will. Someone suggested that as an idea to me, like, Ty, you ought to reward your Discord people if they're going to clip out some stuff from your footage or from your live show, and they're going to post it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, Instagram. You ought to give them some of that XP, some of that sweet Discord XP. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. So if you're a Discord member, feel free to do that. All right. Without further ado, let's bring him on. It's the one and the only Mason Choate. What's going on, man?
What's up, Ty? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing pretty well. I'm drinking my Monster tea, low sugar.
Good deal. I got the Alani today.
Oh, the Alani. I've yet to try any Alani.
They're good, man. I like them.
I've got people in my Discord that are trying to convince me that I should try it out.
I drink way too many of them, probably like 1 a day, which is really not good for me. So I really need to stop it. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, my wife is like, well, at least it's not like a regular Coke, at least it's not Pep. Well, for me, it'd be Pepsi. It's low sugar, but yeah, nothing's good for you anymore.
No.
All right. Well, again, you guys, if you don't know who he is, if you've been living under a rock, this is, of course, Mason Choate from hogbeat.com, working over at Rivals. He's been over there for a few years now. We've had him on. This is your second time on the show. I wanted to start off with, we got to hear from Bobby Petrino yesterday, and he mentioned, I didn't know this. So he's going to be down on the sidelines. You can't take the microphone, the device they're using to talk to their players on the field. You can't take it up into a box.
I guess I didn't know that either. To be honest with you, like, I don't really even pay attention to that stuff. There's some reporters who are like super, like, every time we've talked to Bobby, they want to know about the in-helmet communication, it's interesting. But I mean, like, I'm not going to write about it a ton, so I haven't really looked into it. But from what Bobby was saying, I thought it was interesting that he thought maybe back in like 99, 2000, 2001 when he was with the Jaguars calling plays, that their system like worked better and smoother than the system that Arkansas currently has. So and Trey Biddy asked him, he was like, so I guess was the technology better back then? And Bobby was like, it might have been. So I thought that was interesting for sure.
Yeah. Oh man. It's like the last thing you want to hear. 25-year-old technology was better in the NFL. I'll tell you, I agree. I think it is a pretty big, it's nice, but everyone's going to be on the same playing field, which is why I haven't talked a lot about it either on here or in our Discord. I think the bigger deal is the iPad or the tablets.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge deal. That's kind of a game changer. Again, it's the same thing. Everyone's on the same page, but to have a guy like Bobby Petrino on the sidelines, I mean, you could say what you want about the guy. You know, maybe he's not the same as he was maybe 15 years ago as a play caller, but you're going to have him on the sidelines with his offense, and you're going to give him that kind of technology. Like I don't know. I think that's actually the bigger story.
Yeah. Well, going back to the in-helmet communication, though, one of the more interesting quotes that Bobby had, and people might have missed it because it was the very last question that he was asked, but it was along the same lines of what I was talking about with technology being better in 2001. But then, he's asked, how is it going to be a benefit to have it? He mentioned how huddling and just being able to be in the huddle, then go up to the line quicker, the defense can't really adjust as fast. But he also said, he mentioned the Astros and when they were stealing signs, and he said that crap has been going on in college football for a long time, and it's just as bad. Which that quote would have been insane last year with all the Michigan stuff. But he just really pointed out, with at least just specifically the in-helmet communication, how I guess just huddling and being able to huddle and know what the play is and then go straight to the line right into your formation is going to help them better, I guess, because the defense, sometimes the defensive coordinators have the chance to look at the offense and move their defense. This makes it to where they don't have as much time to react. Is how I understand it. And yeah. I'm not a football coach. So
yeah, well, I'm not either. I am on let me take that back. I am on EA College Football 2.5. I'm not very good.
Well, then technically I'm a football coach too. I'm the coach of like 5 different teams right now.
Oh, really? 5 different teams?
Yeah. Well, I have like 2 dynasties. I have a Road to Glory, and then I just play online with friends all the time. So I guess that counts too. I'm
in 3 online leagues. I'm dominating one, but then the other 2, which are Tuss Talk, they're Tuss Talk leagues, and I've beaten 1 player. I mean, I'm about to get fired at Georgia Tech. I know that for a fact. I think I'm going to finish with like 3 wins. I'm not very good. It's not the NCAA of old by far, but that's to be expected. That game's been so long ago, the old NCAA games.
Yeah.
I'm not off to a very good start. And I wasn't any good in Madden either, on our Madden leagues that we did last few months ago. I wasn't any good at those either. Yeah. Mr. T-Dub says, what up, Ty? BP is the only reason I give Arkansas a shot at 5 wins, a tiny chance for 6. Getting more excited to see the O. Become a legend on Patreon, says Mr. T-Dub. That's right. You got a shot at winning an autographed former Arkansas player card if you sign up for Patreon. Thank you for the shout out, Mr. T-Dub. Appreciate that. I will always post super chats on the screen. All right. Find my place again. Where were we? Oh, okay. So Bobby on wideouts on the year, or in a given game, he's going to use up to about 6 wide receivers. It sounds like that's about the goal in terms of his rotation. That sounds about right based on what we saw in spring and fall camp.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the wide receiver room is that you feel like you got 3 guys for sure, and Armstrong, Broden, and Satania. Like those are your 3 starters, assuming they're all 3 healthy. But then after that, there's a good group of guys that are really battling to be part of that top 6. And I feel like freshman CJ Brown has to be part of that group because I mean, he was first team when like consistently when Broden and Armstrong were not going through fastball, dealing with whatever they had. And then you think you got Jaden Wilson, Bryce Stevens, Davion Dozier, Desmond James, Monte Harrison, even, who I mean, like at this point, if you're asking me for a top 6 wide receivers, I feel like Monte Harrison has to be in the top 6.
He's got to be.
So now you got 5 if you add C.J. Brown, Monte Harrison, and then I'd probably go Davion Dozier at this point. Or maybe Jaden Wilson.
Did you throw? Did I hear you put Jordan Anthony in there at all?
No. Which I wanted to ask Petrino about Anthony last night because he briefly mentioned the 70-yard touchdown they had during the Thursday scrimmage. I think he said it was their second drive. And we know that Jordan Anthony caught a 69-yard touchdown pass. Yeah. And so I just, we haven't really seen Jordan Anthony with the first team offense at all. No. And that pass was from Taylon Green. So he was running with the ones. So that was interesting. I feel like I probably should have asked Bobby about him last night, and I didn't.
How dare you, sir? Yeah. How dare you? You're going to get called out on social media for not asking the tough questions.
Yeah.
How dare you, Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan, I wonder if that's kind of maybe, I don't know, this is wishful thinking. Maybe he's kind of like an ace up their sleeve, maybe if you need a good end around, a little.
I mean, he's probably the fastest player on the team for sure.
Yeah.
So you have, the speed is real, but we haven't seen it in practice. You've been there, and it's no offense to the guy. We just haven't seen anything from him. And I know that, he had some track stuff in the spring, so he had that. He might have had an injury in the spring. I can't remember much, but we didn't see anything from him in the spring really either. So
feels like we saw several receivers get dinged up. Starting receivers get dinged up in spring camp. We know Armstrong had the hammy issue. Broden, I think,
he had some family issues.
That's right.
Because he missed I want to say he missed 4 or 5 practices leading up to the red-white game. And then he showed up for the red-white game and caught 5 passes for 50-something yards, and maybe he had a touchdown too. So we thought that was impressive that, you miss 4 or 5 practices, you show up, it's a new transfer quarterback. You've only done spring practices with this QB, and you catch 5 passes and a touchdown in the spring game. That makes me feel better about Tyrone Broden when I think about that specific scenario.
Yeah. Broden, I'm telling you, man, I said this back in spring. If this all carries over into fall camp, that's what I said then. If this carries over into fall camp and we continue to see the consistency out of him, and then, of course, he's still running with the ones. Who knows what he could do? Of course, he's got to stay healthy and all that. And then you mentioned now it's Monte. Is it Monte Harrison or is it Monte Harrison?
I think it's Monte. I think all the players and coaches say Monte.
I swear I've heard that pronounced a couple of different ways. I got someone always in Discord tagging me like, Ty, you're pronouncing his name wrong. It's usually Paul. You know who you are, Paul.
Do you say Monte or Monty?
I say, shoot.
I think it's Monte. I think it's Monte, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
I'm not really sure, but you mentioned him, 6'3", 230 pounds, and he runs like I don't know, man. I don't want to say a Mustang, but he looks so smooth when he's running those routes.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's been there, and this is a guy who just got on campus. He wasn't here during spring camp.
Well, it's a guy who hasn't played football in 10 years.
That too.
So,
yeah.
By the way, according to his profile on the official roster, it's Monte. So,
Monte.
Yep.
Monte.
But yeah, I've seen some people commenting on our YouTube practice videos that I haven't seen Harrison drop a pass and he's dropped some passes, that when we first saw him those first few days, drops were an issue, but you've seen him get better. He has visibly gotten better, not only with catching the ball, but with his route running, with just his physicality. You have to learn how to get hit again. Mm-hmm. And, but when I think back to the first day that I saw Monte Harrison at practice, I was like, who's the tight end wearing number 82? Because he's just he's 6'3", 230. That's the same size as Luke has, basically.
Yeah. Marquise Gums is about the same size.
Yeah. So he's definitely, he could end up being a matchup nightmare. And we had some threads on our message board on hogbeat.com. Go check it out. When Monte committed, and it was is this guy even going to actually play for Arkansas? You've had some situations where stuff like this happens and they don't end up playing. And I felt like it was a question even 5 days through camp, something like that. That's just a random number. If Monte had a great practice on day 5, I'm sorry. But we are hearing from the coaches, and specifically Bobby Petrino, multiple times at this point, that Monte Harrison is going to play, and he's going to contribute to this team this year. I'm
Yeah.
not saying he's going to lead them in receiving, but I don't know. What do you think, Ty? What are you projecting his stat line to be at this point?
I mean, I could see it being like, we're not sitting there calling him Treylon Burks, right? He's not going to go out and grab. He's not going to get 50, 60 plus grabs, but he's going to have an impact.
Yeah,
I think he could be north of 30 grabs. I think that's possible if he could break in with the ones, which is a tall order. But
yeah, somebody was talking to me about him today, and I was just like, he's good, but I don't think that. I just don't feel like he is one of their top wide receivers. I don't know how else to say it. Like, you got Armstrong, Broden, Satania. We didn't even mention Tesla earlier. Tesla's in that group too, but I just don't look at Monte Harrison and be like, okay, well, he is like this incredible wide receiver who's going to change this team this year. No. As of right now, that could change, but I do think that he'll contribute.
Yeah. I'm banking on the fact, and I know this has been talked about a lot, that Bobby isn't just a passing coordinator. He's just going to get guys in position to excel, and the offense is just going to benefit. But like, he did improve A&M's passing, like almost all their passing numbers. They did throw the ball, if I remember right, a little bit more. I could be wrong on that. Someone stat check me, but I'm pretty sure they threw the ball a little bit more, even with Weigman, even with him going down early. They still threw the ball more than a lot of people thought, anyways, at least according to some of the A&M people I've talked with. Very effective. And so I kind of factor that into it a little bit. Like, they're going to throw the ball more, and I hope they're more effective than last year. I mean, they can't afford to be they can't match what they did last year in terms of the offense. They've got to good Lord, they've got to have a far better product on the field. But I feel like maybe he could be someone who benefits from that. I'm just not sold on Tesla. I don't know, man. Yeah, he had some moments in camp, but he did last year too, and it happened in front of you and I a couple of times. And I'm just I don't know. Maybe he'll prove me wrong this year. I don't know. Maybe he'll be the next Cup for all I know. But I feel like Harrison's going to get some opportunities. But I'm with you. He's not going to be one of these major impact guys.
Yeah.
So
it says something that Harrison ran with the ones during fastball, multiple days. That doesn't happen by accident. Yeah. Isaac Tesla just hasn't, and he hasn't shown a lot when we were at practice. That doesn't mean that he's not doing it behind closed doors.
Sure.
But I just look at Tesla as like a guy who he's a great possession receiver. Maybe not the best route runner, maybe not the fastest guy, but he's really tough. He's really physical. And I mean, like, if you got like a 3rd and 4 and you need to throw it to a guy on a slant who's going to get blown up, I mean, Isaac Tesla is as good as anybody, in my opinion, on this team.
Big frame, 6'4", 220 or something. I mean, big frame. He could handle those over the middle throws, and I've seen them run him with some slant routes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I still think like this offense. I mean, it's still a team coached by Sam Pittman, so I feel like they're going to want to establish the run and run the ball first. And you got a great running back room if everybody can stay healthy, though, because you got Landon Jackson, who I think we all know at this point is going to be good. By the way, do not tell him he's a power back. Just do not do that. He doesn't want. I don't know if you watched the press conference. I asked him about what were they doing? They were running I formation. And I was like, what do you think about, you guys working out of some of the I formation? We didn't really see that last year. You're more of a power back. And he was like, well, I'm not really a power back. I'm an athlete. And it's like, well, I mean, like, every highlight that the team posts of him is just him trucking somebody. Yeah. So, anyways, he's going to be good. Rashad Dubinion, I think, is quick. I think he's going to be a good receiving back. I think he's got good change of direction. I like Rashad Dubinion. We've talked about Braylon Russell. We don't really know exactly how much he's going to touch the ball. Rodney Hill's a great receiving back. So like they've got a lot of diversity as far as like skill sets in the running back room. And I think, that's great for Bobby Petrino. You got a lot of guys that you can do different things with, right? Because Jaquan Jackson, we talked about the power back thing, but he is more than a power back. Braylon Russell at this point, probably just a power back. But I mean, even Colby Smith said that Braylon Russell can catch the ball really well out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So I think that there's going to be a lot of competition on offense aside from like, you know who your quarterback is. You know Luke Hasz is going to be a star tight end. You know who your top three. Okay, now I'm thinking competition's not that much, but you know who your top three wide receivers are. But then behind that, and then offensive line even at left guard. Like I wonder with Kudus, I don't know. We don't know if he's back to being a full participant. You know, Bobby said that he's been doing some stuff at practice. But even that left guard spot, like with Kudus missing so much time, is a Marion Harris challenging Kudus to start there? We don't know. You know?
And it's about, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's kind of like about time for a Marion. I think we were expecting this last year out of him, and it's good to see him kind of, I know he came in, I think he came in heavy, if I remember right.
Yeah, he came in really heavy and then dropped down below 300. And then his problem, according to the coaches, has been keeping on weight. And now that he's been able to keep on some weight, stay, north of 300, he's being able to play at a higher level. Now he's 6'7" though, so I feel like people prefer him at tackle which is what he's been practicing at until they moved him to left guard. So yeah, I don't know. Talking about it being time for somebody, I feel like it's time for Tykees Crawford, man.
Oh, it's true.
I think it's his last year of eligibility. So
it is, yeah.
It's literally now or never for him.
Yeah, and did you see he made that I just got the email from the SID.
The Senior Bowl watch
list. The Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
I know that's just he's on the watch list. Doesn't mean he's in it. We won't know that till later. Yeah, they added 13 players. We just found that out today on the watch list for the 2025 Reese's Senior Bowl watch list. So,
yep.
And I was a little surprised to see Tykees on there because it's like, I mean, yeah, he played a little bit last year, but the offensive line was atrocious. So.
Yeah,
that's all on him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's one guy that, I mean, if they're talking to the coaching staff, I mean, every time we've heard from Sam Pittman, he loves to talk about Tykees Crawford and how he needs to play. And it just hasn't happened. But I'm sure if the Reese's Bowl people are reaching out to the coaching staff, they probably were like, hey, you need to get Tykees Crawford there too, whether he plays this year or not.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I could see that being the case. I know when spring camp, when Bobby was spending all that time with the offensive line, and he did in the fall camp too, but not like he did in spring, at least from what I could tell. But when I went down there to watch him practice, and I saw Sam, him and Mateos just like really cheering Crawford on.
Yeah,
more so than the other players, the other starters. And I was a little surprised by that.
Well, when I've watched Crawford and the offensive line as a whole during individual drills, and this, there's not that much you can take away from them doing individual drills.
That's true.
Yeah. I think Ty's breaking up. Is it me breaking up or him?
I don't know if it's you or me. You're breaking up a little bit.
Are we good? I think we're good now.
I can hear you now. You were saying independent drills.
Yes. In individual drills. So, there's one guy that I think goes harder in individual drills than anybody on the team, and that's Landon Jackson. And that makes sense, right? He's the best player on the team. He's really good. But, I mean, Tykees Crawford, dude, he goes after it. When I watch him, he's like, you can just, like, hear guys during individual drills, how hard they're going. And Tykees Crawford goes as hard, if not harder, than anybody on the offensive line in individual drills. So, I mean, I don't know how much that helps him when it comes to, like, getting on first-team offense, but at least he's taking the little things and trying to do it as hard as he can, right? Not everybody does that.
That's fair. Yeah. Very true. And the other thing too is there's not, I keep getting asked, especially after now that the media's we're not invited back for fall camp. Like, did you see enough to get us to 9 wins, Ty? I've been asked that like twice, and I'm like, man, there's only so much we could take away, especially with the portal. You just don't know until they hit the field. Till they're playing Oklahoma State, you're not going to know much. But I think that's fair. Bobby did clear up, and I may have, because I was listening to this morning, like an hour ago, and I was trying to get through it quickly and take notes. But he cleared up the scrimmage with the interceptions a little bit. So if I understood him correctly, both Malachi and Bobby, or Malachi and Green, threw a pair of interceptions. One of which was tipped at the line of scrimmage by Green. So does that lead us to believe that KJ threw the remaining 4 picks? I mean, I guess nobody knows, right? I mean,
it could have been the walk-ons too.
Yeah.
Blake Boda is there too. Blake Boda is not a walk-on, but could have been Blake Boda, the transfer from Coastal Carolina, and at least one of Taylon's picks were tipped.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, when we talked to Bobby last week, he said, tip passes in the SEC turn into interceptions, then they go in scrimmage, and sure enough, that's what happened. So, and I think Malachi maybe had a rough week last week because I had heard that in Tuesday's practice, I think it was Tuesday's practice, he maybe, threw a few interceptions, then threw a couple in the scrimmage. But Bobby said last night, and this is what I thought has been the case, like Malachi, that was uncharacteristic for him. Because, like, if you think back to the spring, Malachi was a great decision maker. Maybe not the flashiest player or making, the most aggressive throws, but he sure as heck wasn't putting the ball, in harm's way very often. And so when he was doing that last week, I was a little surprised to see it from him. And I was pleased to hear from Bobby that it was uncharacteristic of Malachi to perform that way. So I'm sure we'll see him be better moving forward.
Yeah, he definitely had a rough week last week. I talked about it here. It wasn't his best week, but that's going to happen. That's the whole purpose of fall camp anyways, right? Get that stuff kind of out of the way while you can. All right. Well, so fall camp is essentially over for us anyways. Based on what you did see, is there anything that maybe, did we lose him again? Hold on. This is trippy. All right.
Sorry.
I didn't even know you were gone.
my Wi-Fi went out and I had to switch it real quick. So we're good.
Okay. All right. So fall camp is essentially over for us. I mean, I know it's not over, but I mean, they're getting ready for install for UAPB and we're not allowed back. Based on what you saw through fall camp, what was there anything that maybe no one's talking about that stood out a little more to you that no one else has really touched on?
Let's see. I think Devin Bale is going to be really solid as the punter. You lose a guy in Max Fletcher who was really good as a practice guy, not the best when he got out on the field in the real game, but I think Devin Bale is going to be good. I've watched Devin Bale in practice. He kicks the ball really well. And so I think you got a good punter. That's something that people don't talk about very much. I did hear recently that maybe somebody or some people think that the secondary is maybe not as good. I don't know if that's the way to frame it, or maybe they just have had a rough fall camp or whatever. But I really like the secondary. I think they're really deep. When you think about who are the top 5 defensive backs for this team, it's really hard to nail that down.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing because there's so many guys that are like that close. You have like Jalen Braxton, Jaden Johnson, Danico Slaughter is probably a top 5 guy, but then you've got a big group of like Jaheim Singletary, Marquise Robinson, Hudson Clark, and you're kind of mixing safeties and corners, but TJ Metcalf.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of guys in there that are really battling. And then I think maybe one of the biggest surprises to me was when Marcus Woodson said the linebacker room was the deepest room on the defense.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I remember in the spring having conversations with people, even like people on the staff, and about the linebacker room and how inexperienced it was. And it was in the spring, right? They added a lot post-spring.
They did.
And it looks better now. But in the spring, it was concerning because you lost your 4 top guys at linebacker from last year, and you were looking at Xavier Sori and Brad Spence, and you were telling them, hey, you got to run this defense in the spring. Then they go and add Steven Dix, Anthony Switzer, Bradley Shaw, Wyatt Simmons were late enrollees, and I was listening to someone the other day, and it's crazy to call them late enrollees now when they enroll in the summer, when that just used to be the normal time that they would enroll. But anyways, so the linebacker room is now like, well, who do you play in the linebacker room now? Because Sori and Spence are good, but Dix has been really good. Switzer has been really good. Both those guys have ran with the ones. I think Bradley Shaw, I did a story on Hogbeat of 4 freshmen to watch for Arkansas this year. I picked him as one of them, and I think he's really good. 4-star out of Mobile, Alabama. And when Sam Pittman talks about a freshman linebacker, you know that he's probably going to be pretty good. So Sam Pittman has mentioned Bradley Shaw, and then White Simmons is good. So there's a lot of competition there too. And I was surprised to hear that from Marcus Woodson. If I was to pick a deepest position group, it would just be secondary.
Yep.
As good as we think the defensive line is going to be, they might kind of be a little light there, especially at end.
I said interior because I don't know. I think was it Sam that said he thought he had 5 guys ready to roll, or 5 guys that they felt deep, about 5 deep at the interior defensive tackle spot. I think it was him, or maybe
that's like what they want to be.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I really think they've got their top 4 guys, and I really think it drops off after that. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're probably right. Maybe 5 because you got Gregory and Ball are going to be solid.
Yeah.
Rose and Jaffrard, but I think they've kind of made Jaffrard and Danny Saili, the transfer from BYU.
Yeah.
I think they've kind of like turned that into almost one player where like those guys are just going to rotate in and out for each other. So technically 5, but really 4 because Jaffrard and Saili are going to play like the same role, but they're just both not there, whether it be like just physically or mentally or whatever it is, to where they can play, the full-time snaps that the other 3 guys would be playing. It's how I understand it from what the coaches said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're 4 deep there. And
Jaffrard, I think 3 because Jaffrard is unproven, right?
Okay.
Like Jaffrard, we know he's got the size, but what has he shown us? He didn't show us anything last year.
Yeah.
But you could also just like be, are you just like assuming that Jaffrard is going to be solid no matter what?
Well, I love his size. I'll say that much. And
I mean, the size makes you think like, well, he can at least just like push somebody,
draw the center and the guard, maybe draw a double team. I mean, my God, 6'5", 390 pounds or 380, whatever. Actually, I have the fall camp in front of me. I don't know why I'm not looking at it, but yeah, I mean, he's massive and he's really strong. I didn't watch the defensive line a whole lot through fall camp, but I did a little bit, and I watched 95 and pretty impressed. Like, he could be a little explosive off the pop, right off the snap.
Yeah. And to his credit, I'm not doubting him at all. I'm saying in a real game he hasn't proven anything. But yeah, in fall camp I've watched him. I've seen him get in the backfield quicker than any D lineman multiple times. I've seen him in individual drills, compared to last year. Like he is quick. He's light on his feet. He's like running back and forth to the lines. Like he was not doing that last year.
No, he was huffing and puffing.
No, and they got this guy. They got another guy now. His name's Elijah Brown. He's a walk-on, and I'm not calling him out, but he's a bigger guy. What is he? He's 6'3", 376. So he's a bigger guy, and he's kind of like what Jaffrard was last year. You can see that maybe he has the talent and the ability in him, but practice is hard for him. The coaches have to tell him to get up. They got to tell him to hustle, and that was kind of Jaffrard last year, and you're not really seeing that this year. And so I do like him. I just think he's unproven, and I think he will prove himself this year.
That's fair. And he's a redshirt freshman. I mean, so that's, I guess for me to be gun ho on him at all, or anytime you've got unproven guys, especially, and I hate to say this, these younger defensive linemen at Arkansas over the years, it seems like you've got to wait till their 3rd or 4th year till they really blow up. Like Armon Watts was a really good example of that. Watts came out of nowhere, and then his senior season he plays so well he gets drafted. I mean, no one would have thought that going into his final year at Arkansas. But yeah, you might be right, it might be about 3 to 4 deep, but I think it's, to me, and this is actually a perfect segue, to me, the biggest question on depth, and I don't know where you're at on this, I haven't talked to you about this, it feels obvious to me, but maybe not. Mason, it's got to be the offensive line, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
sure. Yeah.
If something happens to Carmona, dude, your season's in jeopardy. I'll say that. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm going to say it. I think your season's in jeopardy if Carmona, if anything happens to that guy. And I realize that's probably a lot of schools, right? That's your left tackle. But I feel like it's such a drop off behind him. No offense to Josh Street or whoever they're going to roll over there at the 2 spot, but it just feels like a huge drop off. I don't know how it got to this level of like outside of maybe 1 or 2 spots on the interior part of the offensive line, there might be some trouble here when you're talking about depth on the offensive line.
Well, if you want to look back at how it happened, Eric Mateos it was like a brief quote on it, and it was something along the lines of, we maybe lost more than we wanted to, and that's just because they didn't have guys that fit. So you think about the guys that left after the spring.
Yeah.
What was Devin Manuel there in the spring? I can't remember. Or did he leave after the season? Let's just talk about the guys you lost after last season. You lost Andrew Chambly, Devin Manuel, Paris Patterson, and then you also lost Bo Limmer. I'm probably forgetting somebody else who went to the transfer portal, but either way. So I think they have 13 scholarship offensive linemen, and Mateo said they would like to be around like 17. So yeah, you're low on scholarship numbers. You've seen walk-ons in the 2 deep. That doesn't mean that, Mateo said they're walk-ons that are playing on a scholarship level. So, and I kind of agree with him. And they do have scholarship guys who are like on the 3rd-team offensive line. So it's not that they don't have enough scholarship to fill a 2 deep. They got 13 of them. So, but yeah, I worry about it, and I wonder what they would do at left tackle if Carmona was to go down, because I don't think it would be like Josh Street, who was playing left tackle whenever we last saw, an open practice.
Yeah.
And there was a 2nd-team left tackle, Josh Street. I don't think it would be him. I mean, maybe Joe Moore, who's 2nd-team right tackle. Maybe you move Blackstock over from left tackle. I don't know. Maybe you move Josh Braun out to tackle. I don't think that would happen, though.
No, Braun doesn't. Yeah.
Maybe Kudus, because Kudus played tackle last year. Kudus was the ultimate, we're going to just like put him wherever like we feel like we need to change something last year. And Pittman admitted that they almost ruined him by doing that. Yeah. So they probably wouldn't want to do that again this year.
I thought I read somewhere that Brooks Edmondson, kid out of Bryant, that he had played a lot of left tackle in high school and was pretty good at it. I might be getting him mixed up with somebody, but I'm not even sure.
I don't know what he played in high school, but he's one of those walk-on guys playing like a scholarship guy.
Yeah. I thought he did all right. I heard some people complimenting him. I mean, I don't know. I just think that there is a depth issue, and it's in more than one spot on the offensive line. And even Bobby was asked about it, and he said that he was a little bit surprised how far behind the offensive line was compared to the defensive line. And I feel pretty good about the starters. I'll say
he also said that they've caught up, though.
Yeah, that's fair. So, he did.
He ended that quote by saying they've caught up, and maybe they have. And Arkansas's defensive line is good too, right? You got to think about that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. They are an injury away, really.
Which is a little scary, especially. Well, I don't know. I mean, the durability thing is always a factor, no matter where you go, no matter what school you're covering or watching. But it feels more dangerous this year at left tackle than I can remember. I can't recall the Chad Morris. I mean, all of that was scary. I mean,
actually, you know what would happen? They would just move Marion Harris to left tackle.
You think they would? Okay,
because that's what he was playing left tackle.
That's
the whole time until he moved to 1st-team left guard.
That's true.
So I think that's probably what would happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
I'd be okay. Like if Carmona goes down, and that's the only, and heaven forbid that happens. I think Carmona's gonna have a big season. But if you had to plug in a Marion Harris, I think you'd feel okay about that.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
I've had him stuck in
at left guard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. We just figured this out.
We did.
We figured out the Arkansas offensive line
in real time. Everybody, in real time, we just figured out the left tackle spot.
Yeah,
the number 2 spot. Now all we gotta do is a few more positions. What you talked about Landon Jackson really quick. What kind of year do you think this guy has? Because he had I thought he improved in fall camp. I really did. As hard as that is to imagine, I thought he improved.
Yeah.
I thought he looked better. He looked more conditioned. I don't know, man. I was pretty impressed by him, and I'm curious where you're at, and some others too. I forgot to ask Courtney Mims that yesterday, but I was going to talk to her about the defensive line. But do you think he has, like, this is the year this dude just blows up? I mean, keep in mind, last year he had a good year, but it was from one game, the Alabama game, where he had like 3 sacks and 2 or 3 other TFLs, and he skyrockets up Mel Kiper's draft board. But I think this year he's going to have a pretty solid year, pretty even year. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I don't know how many double teams he's going to be drawing,
That's
but
fair.
but like I think when I think back to Thursday's scrimmage when he had 3 sacks,
Yeah.
and we talked to him afterwards, and he was like, "This was my last scrimmage, and I had some goals that I wanted to accomplish, and I feel like I did that." When we've talked to Landon about why he came back to Arkansas, it's because he had goals he wanted to accomplish that he has not yet. I don't know if that is team goals or personal goals, but I wonder, like, does he have like a number of sacks he wants to get this year? Like, double digit. Is that doable for Landon Jackson to have double digit sacks this year? I don't know, man. Because like it is, you do have to think about how often is he going to be just like absolutely just taking on 2 or 3 blockers at a time.
Yeah.
And when that happens to guys, they don't get exactly the numbers, but they are leaving open other guys and giving them opportunities. So the impact of his team is going to be immeasurable, but statistically, I just don't really. It's hard. I think he'll lead the team in sacks for sure.
Well, yeah, and I think you're right. He's going to catch a lot of double teams, but I also think with the other 3 guys on that defensive line, someone's going to break through, and you kind of already touched on it. But I mean, like, I don't know what's going on with Jukic, if he's going to take that one spot from Nico or not at the other end position. But I just feel like someone up there is going to benefit. And if it's anybody, I'd probably put my the odds on it being Landon. But yeah, he's going to catch some double teams.
Yeah. I think I had this conversation with our managing editor, Riley McFerrin, and it was like, if Landon Jackson is going to lead the team in sacks, and we can just go ahead and predict that, well, who's next? Who would be the other guy? You mentioned June Kodge, who I think could have a shot at it. He had 15 sacks at Albany last year.
Yeah.
I think Brad Spence, though, man, they like to put Brad Spence in that buck role on the edge, let him rush the passer. He said he's a pass rusher at heart. So, I mean, you could see Brad Spence get like 6-7 sacks this year, something like that. That would be fun to see.
You know who else? If he can stick with the ones, if he gets the opportunity, and I was impressed with how quick that dude was, Larry Worth.
Yeah. Well, it's like, how often would they be blitzing him like that, though? Because he's going to be playing nickel, so.
Yeah. I feel like they're going to – I think they want to be more aggressive this year. I really think they do. I think they want to – maybe last year they had the training wheels on a lot, even though they pressured the quarterback a lot last year. Worth is quick.
Yeah.
And him blitzing out of that nickel spot, and he's – my God, he's 6 foot – what is he, 6'4"?
6'4". Yeah.
6'4", 230?
I got my fancy Nancy paper roster.
Yeah, I have mine here. I don't know why I'm not just looking at it.
He's 6'4", 224.
God.
They need to update this roster because it has him listed as a linebacker, and he's been DB all fall camp.
He played the nickel through fall camp.
So they need to flip Worth and Switzer, because Switzer's been playing majority linebacker, but he's listed as DB.
Switzer's quick too, man.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to get into it. I am on either tomorrow because I have Ty Richardson coming on tomorrow at 4, and I don't know if I'm gonna talk about my updated wins and losses, because I do that every year when fall camp concludes and we're basically over.
Well, I mean, we're about to be a week out tomorrow, so you got to have it. Like, everybody's put out their picks at this point.
Yeah, I always wait to that last moment, Yeah. I always I don't know about you, and I know you record on your phone like I do. You've also got your fancy camera, but I've just got my iPhone. I don't even know what this is, 14 mega plus super duper. But I have so much film, so much video, and I go through and I just try to watch each position group. Like I was watching the defensive line last week and sharing that footage with Patreon supporters in Discord. So I really try to soak in as much as I can, especially this year because I was so far off last year. Like
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody was.
I had them
So
going 8-4 last year, so
did I.
yeah, that was tough. But I have locked in my prediction.
Oh,
And
okay.
I
Do you
can't.
want to save that for? Is that something on Hogbeat, or do you want to?
It'll
Is
be
it already?
tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Our whole staff is going to have our predictions. I'll say I have them going 6-6. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you guys heard it here first. He's Mason Choate over on Hogbeat. I recommend you go read all of their picks.
yeah. Everything we say is factually correct. So I mean, like 6-6 is happening now. I was talking with a friend of mine earlier, and he was like, "It's either 3-9 or 9-3, and nowhere in between,
Oh
and nothing in
wow,
between." So
that's a bold move, Cotton.
very bold, and I think he had them like losing at home to Tennessee, but winning on the road to Missouri, and so it was kind of just like a fun exercise that we weren't being for real.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like I think I saw a national analyst predict 3-9 this year.
Oh
So,
really? For Arkansas?
yep, it was Barrett Salee.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
I
I
don't have
think I
anything
did.
against him. That's just like I think what he predicted. So
Oh,
yeah,
I haven't. I'm trying my best to just put the blinders on and just go into it with raw footage and data and whatever else I could find. And, but all that gets thrown out the window, especially with the portal. I mean, it's just, you have no freaking clue
yeah.
anymore, but
And you also
still
have
fun.
the Petrino factor this year.
Yeah.
And everybody in the state of Arkansas, I don't know what the vibe is outside of the state, but everybody in the state of Arkansas seems to think that Petrino is good for like 3 or 4 wins. So
Someone got torched in chat for saying he's only good for one more win. Some folks in chat kind of torched my boy over that. I mean,
but
yeah,
that's the thing, right? Is that like from the Arkansas perspective, everybody's just like, we know how we feel about Bobby Petrino, right? And so you kind of have to take a little bit of the rose-colored glasses off. But still, even then, when I do that, I think about this team and I'm like, man, Taylor Green's a great leader. Fernando Carmona, is an infectious, personality.
they love him.
They've got a wide receiver room that has so much size that is tailor-made for a Bobby Petrino offense.
Yeah.
They've got a starting offensive line with 3 transfers and 2 returning guys that are all supposed to be good. You got a defensive line with should be a preseason All-American. You got a linebacker room that the coaching staff thinks is the deepest room on the team. And you got a secondary that ranked 32nd in the nation last year in pass yards allowed, returned most of those players, and added some really good transfers.
Yeah.
Now, you lost Cam Little to the NFL, so you're worried about the kicker spot a little bit. But I just, when you say it that way, it makes you think, man, 7-5 or 8-4 sounds good. But then you have to think realistically about like, well, Taylor Green threw 9 interceptions at Boise State last year.
Yeah.
This offensive line was terrible last year. The offense in general was terrible. The receivers, all the receivers that came back, they didn't really do much. So like then you think about that stuff. And so it's just a lot of question marks. And I hate that you play UAPB week 1 at War Memorial because it's like last year when you played Western Carolina week 1 at War Memorial. You just don't learn much from those games.
No.
It's cool. Like you get to play the in-state opponent and all that. But, everybody is just looking ahead to Oklahoma State. Rightfully so. Even Petrino was asked about it last night. And he was like, well, we got an opponent before then.
Yeah. He seemed a little annoyed at that.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's the last time we're going to talk to Petrino all year. So
Yep.
let's get the Oklahoma State quote out of the way.
Exactly. That's asking too much, though.
Yeah. No. But yeah, so I just wonder, like, how much are we going to learn from this team against UAPB next week? And I don't know, man, but I'm excited to see Taylor Green live. I'm really excited to see. I want I just feel like he's going to break off like a 70-yard touchdown run.
Feels inevitable. Like this is the closest to Matt Jones we've had. I think in terms of speed and size and all that. I don't know about his still kind of jury out on his throwing mechanics. I heard Bobby say that we're trying to get him to throw over the top, and yet I'm watching him in practice. He's still kind of sidearming.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's so many variables. Like you got to look at the other teams too. Like, how did they get better? And I did say after going into back in May, I think is when I did a collab live stream with another podcast, and I said something that kind of teed off a few people. Maybe not teed off, but had some strong disagreements with. But I said it feels like most of the SEC and just about everybody we play in terms of Power 5 on the schedule might have actually gotten better than Arkansas. But that was probably a little quick at the draw to say that. I've been pouring over even Oklahoma State a little bit with their 8 transfers and the fact they've got possibly a Heisman / All-American running back. And, you look at Auburn, is Hugh Freeze, is he going to feel the temperature a little bit over in Auburn? And you look at what they've done in the transfer portal, and you just go down the list, and it's like, I may have been a little jumpy at saying that, but I don't know that I was too far off. I mean, looking at what some of these teams did in the offseason, it's pretty impressive. But yeah,
I mean, Ole Miss, dude. I mean, Ole Miss.
Oh my gosh,
Ole Miss probably did more than anybody not named Ohio State.
24 transfers.
Yeah,
and so a number of 4 and 5 star, or a number of 4 stars.
It's tough. It is. That's the thing. You gotta look at what everybody else has going on too.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much worth or like how much value should you put into the Arkansas coaches saying, I don't know. I'm not going to say like word for word what they have said, but the vibe I get is that maybe they didn't go out and get a more talented player like they would have in the past, and maybe they got a guy who was more of a culture fit for them. And you look at the past 2 years and just like the mass exodus of transfers that have left the program after the season. I mean, you got to think that to some degree they wanted to bring in guys who aren't going to leave after 1 year.
Yeah.
And so I just don't know how much value to put into that compared to just like, you got to have the talent. You just really do.
Yeah.
And we understand that where Arkansas is at in the SEC. So I don't know, man. Some of the toughest games for me to predict are like the game at Mississippi State. Because like
that's an automatic W though, don't you know, Mason?
It's not at all.
No,
have you been to Starkville? That's a really hard environment to play in.
It is. They did really well in the portal too. I mean, if you looked at not great, I think Arkansas did a little bit better, but they added some pretty good studs. Coleman, Wilkie Denard.
I hear they got a new offensive line coach too, named Cody Kennedy.
They did indeed.
Yeah. I don't know if Arkansas fans know much about that guy.
Yeah, probably not. Or the guy that's coaching Mississippi State, if they know much about their new head coach. But yeah, I don't know, man. A&M, last time you and I talked, it was like A&M was that coin flip.
I still think so. Everybody's saying Oklahoma State's like the key game on the schedule. I still think it's the A&M game because that's what it has been. Like, you think back the past few years, like you look at the schedule every year and you're like, if you win that A&M game, you're looking at a good season. This year, I feel like everybody's saying that with the Oklahoma State game just because it's so early and you can really answer some questions and silence some doubters.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, you could still – because, like, if you lose the Oklahoma State game, then you lose the Auburn game. What, you're 2-2 going into A&M?
Yeah. So you've got UAPB, Oklahoma State, then you've got UAB, and then you've got Auburn, and then A&M.
Yeah. I think if you win A&M, maybe you can get some momentum going into that Tennessee game, which is has to be one of the more winnable games at home, just because you got LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas after that.
Yeah.
So if you can go back to back, beat A&M, beat Tennessee, you can really get some momentum. You can get the fan base. They'll show up for that night game against LSU on October 19th for sure.
Yeah.
That would be 2 wins going into a bye week if you beat A&M in Tennessee.
That'd be big.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't, and of course, now you've got the extra bye week, and it's gonna be good for us for what we do. It's gonna be nice to be able to have a weekend where it's like all I have to do is watch college football.
It's not though, Ty, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but like in recent years, they've been doing this thing where on the football bye week, they either schedule the basketball charity game.
Oh, that's true.
Or the baseball fall classic. Because they're like, we don't have football this weekend. Let's schedule something else. And then I love my job. I'm blessed to have it. It's
do too. I love what I do.
But during football season, it's awesome to have a weekend off.
Yeah.
But it is great though that the UAPB game's on Thursday and we get all of week 1 Saturday to just watch football.
Isn't that great?
It is.
Oh man, I was telling my wife that. She was like, well, we're trying to book another cruise. And I was like, well, you can't schedule a cruise. She goes, yeah, but that's year round. Like you're busy year round. If you're not going to practice, you got to cover Arkansas, and then it bleeds into basketball, and then that bleeds into baseball. And I'm a solo act here. I don't have a panel of people. I can just go, hey, can you cover me for a weekend? And I was like, well, we do have 2 bye weeks this year.
Yeah.
You're right though. I might have to tell her like, Cal's here and it's a big deal and I'm going to have to cover it.
Well, you got to think about it though, Ty. Cal was talking about a charity game with Kansas. You cannot miss a preseason charity exhibition between Arkansas and Kansas with John Calipari as the head coach. You just can't.
Yeah.
So don't book the cruise yet.
No. Well, we did book a cruise, but she booked it. It would be, I think it'd be like the second weekend of March Madness.
Oh.
So I'm gonna have to reach out. I'm gonna have to find someone to cover for me. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Because everybody now is doing post-game shows. When I used to be the only guy on YouTube doing them, now everyone's doing them. So
yeah, everybody's doing everything, man.
I'm telling you, yeah, you and I've talked about that. It's growing. Like I always knew it would. You're gonna have more and more content creators over here on YouTube. But
it's
actually,
awesome. It's great. I mean, grow it, but just do your own work. That's my only thing.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that off air. Yeah. Last thing I wanted to ask you, and this has been one of those pillars of conversation. I talked with Courtney Mims about this yesterday, and I think I know your answer because I think I saw you on another show talk about this, and I just asked Courtney straight up, does 5 games keep Sam here for a 6th season? And I think I've heard you respond to this question.
I got kind of lit up online for it.
Okay.
Because I said 5 and 7. I think Sam keeps his job.
Okay. Then that's what I heard.
Okay, but you also have to think about like, and the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, because my reasoning was Hunter Yurchek said he wanted to see improvement. In my head, I'm thinking like a good looking 5 and 7. Maybe you're on the outside of maybe you're one of the 5 and 7 teams that could make a bowl game. That's the 5 and 7 I'm thinking of. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, if you don't go 6 and 6 and make a bowl game, it's going to be really tough for Hunter Yurchek to just justify bringing back Sam Pittman. And I mean, like, I've heard rumblings, and this is literally just rumors. This is not anything official. This is just like word of mouth. I mean, it could just be like, Pittman coaches this year, and no matter how it goes, it's just like either Arkansas moves on from him or he moves on and just like retires. Obviously, like there's so many different things that could change. And I mean, I get told every year before Arkansas baseball season, it's going to be Dave Van Horn's last.
Every year.
Yeah. So you can't really believe that stuff. I think I'm gonna have to change my answer from 5 and 7 to 6 and 6. The internet bullied me into changing my answer to 6.
You got bullied into changing your prediction.
It was one of those things where like you just have to like log off Twitter for the day.
Oh man, yeah.
So
I'm fortunate. I don't have that happen very often. I just have my own Discord cook me from time to time.
Yeah.
I just don't post as much on Twitter. I'll put practice videos up, and I just don't interact. You know how Twitter is. If you don't interact, then you're just left out.
Yeah.
So, it's like catching lightning in a bottle when you do have it. But I haven't been cooked yet on Twitter, but I've said, I've been pretty vocal about it. There's just no way in hell he keeps his job after just 5 wins. I just don't see it. And Courtney brought up a good point. I said, well, the only like counter argument I could see to that is, who were those 5 wins against? And then she said, yeah, but then who are those 7 losses against? Like, okay, good point. That's true. Because if you do beat Oklahoma State and maybe you do upset a Tennessee or a Missouri on the road, then that means you're probably losing some games you shouldn't lose also.
Well, what if you're like 4-5 going into the Texas game? You lose to Texas, you're 4-6. You beat Louisiana Tech, you're 5-6, and you're feeling good going into that Missouri game. Say you had like a win over Ole Miss or LSU, but you lost on the road to Mississippi State. You lost at home to Tennessee. And then you lose a close game to Missouri on the road, and you're 5-7. That's the 5-7 that I'm picturing.
Okay.
But even still, like I think I've kind of been talked out of it, and I think that you got to at least go 6-6.
Yeah, it's just not a strong argument, because again, it does boil down to who you lost to, and ultimately that you're not going bowling is the big
well, and like I think the fan base at that point would boil over, like it would, because like after last season, it hit a point where like I thought maybe it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And obviously what happened. We are where we are now. But I think if they go like 5-7, the heat is just going to be way too much.
Yeah.
I think when I said 5-7, I just wasn't thinking about the fan base. I was thinking about just the relationship between Sam and Hunter. And you also have to factor in the fan base, because freaking A&M just bullied their athletic department into not hiring a coach.
Yep.
So it's something that can very much happen. And
Tennessee did it.
Yeah.
Tennessee did it several years ago.
So I don't know if the Arkansas fan base is capable of that, but I don't think that
on Twitter, you don't think they're capable of that?
Well, the thing about Twitter, and I think I said this last time I was on, is that it really is like its own little world. And when you're not in that world, it's really not as important as it seems.
That's true.
So
yeah, my dad has no idea when I say like, oh, so-and-so is going to get cooked by hog Twitter. And he's like, what?
Exactly.
So he's not there.
Dude, my dad will call me, and there was one during fall camp. It was like week 2 of fall camp. You know how Broden had the one-handed catch in the first practice of fall camp?
Yeah.
My dad sent me the link to that from the official team account on Facebook like a week and a half later. And he was like, "Did you see this?" I was like, "Dad, you know what I do for a living?"
My dad does the same thing, man.
I'm like, I was there, by the way. It was cool to see in person.
Well, I'll get the same thing, like, oh boy, they're all these videos they're sharing on social media. A place where he's not at, by the way. I don't know how he's watching this stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see did you see that kind of the same scenario? Did you see so-and-so do this or that? And then he'll ask me later, after not really acknowledging that I was there, he'll go, how'd they look?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's the same as yesterday. I mean, there's only so much you could take away from a single day of camp. So
I'll get the thing sometimes where he's like, I read a story that like Dan Enos was emailing kids after the game or something. And it's like, yeah, Dad, I mean, I wrote that story. So
yeah.
It would be awesome if you just check out my website sometime.
That's too funny.
But I love my dad. He's a good guy.
Oh yeah, same here. And if you, I was going to tell you, if you get Arky 56 in your comment section, he has a St. Louis Cardinal avatar or profile picture.
Okay.
And he's griping about something. That's my dad. He's infamous.
Block him instantly.
There you go. Block him. Okay. Yeah. Don't entertain him. But he goes on War Machine's videos. And he'll say things like, oh, the good old days back when Matt Jones, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Dad, we get it. It's not 2001 anymore. But
well, I mean, War Machine posted, he's been doing like some remastered videos.
I saw that.
Shout out. And I was watching it, and I quote tweeted one of them was just like a jet sweep of Joe Adams and
yeah.
like it needed no caption, and people just understood like this is just beautiful, and let's just all appreciate it together.
Yeah,
So
wonderful. Something that can unite the hog world.
it's refreshing. It's not just the good old days. It's just refreshing to see Arkansas have a little bit of success in football.
Hope they do it this year. Again, I'll give my official prediction. I'll probably do it tomorrow. But I did say before camp, I think I put them at 4-8, but I can't remember. But I will tell everybody I have changed for better or for worse. I wasn't bullied like Mason, but I have changed my prediction.
Hey, nobody bullied me to change my official like prediction on the season. They just bully me to change when I think Sam Pittman will get fired, which really does not matter at all because it's not my decision and it never will be.
There you go. It's not up to us. It's up to Hunter Yurchek.
That's my thing. While like I didn't really get upset about people being like this dude's an idiot because it's all a hypothetical. It's not real. I'm just predicting something, and maybe my prediction of something that probably is not going to actually happen was wrong. So whatever. I don't care.
I'm going to read this final one. What's up, Ty and Mason? What are the chances Arkansas makes a bowl game? Also, is the deciding factor for a bowl game Oklahoma State? Pittman status if they lose to OSU. Nothing will happen if they lose to Oklahoma State. I mean, they're not going to fire him right after that game.
No. I mean, for what it's worth, I have them going 6-6 with a loss to Oklahoma State. So
there you go.
I think it's possible. What are the chances Arkansas makes a bowl game? If I was to put a percentage on it, that's tough, man. Maybe like 49%.
49.9%.
Because I really do think that that's where it's at right now because there's just like so much unknown. Not that it's unknown, just maybe unproven is the word.
Unproven. Yeah. I would say unknown simply because of the portal. I mean, it's made things so difficult to really know because, teams used to have to – it would take teams, 2-3 years to really build up some momentum, build their roster from the inside out and acquire the right pieces. And then it got simpler. I should say simpler, but you felt more comfortable with your prediction. And now it's like, I don't know what Taylor Green, I don't know what he does. That's such a dramatic change of pace there. And then Bobby Petrino too is obviously a huge factor, but so many unknowns.
Even Xavier Sorey, like at linebacker, he didn't really do anything in Georgia. And he's clearly the number one linebacker.
Former 5-star.
So is he going to have a Drew Sanders type step up in year for Arkansas? Or is it going to be more like Jaheim Singletary last year? Yeah. Where it was this 5-star transfer from Georgia who didn't do much at his previous stop and he was all right. But we can all admit that Jaheim Singletary didn't play to the level of you would want a former 5-star to last year.
He was a redshirt freshman last year. Was that right?
I think so. Yeah.
So maybe he takes that third year leap. I don't know.
I think I've been impressed with him in fall camp. I definitely think that he's right there. If I had to project the starting corners right now, I think it's Jalen Braxton for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I do think that Jaheim Singletary has a legit case. I would either go with him or Marquise Robinson probably at the other corner spot.
Not Stewart.
Stewart's he's kind of behind those guys, and then you got Selman Bridges is there.
Yeah.
I like Selman Bridges.
I do too. Selman, maybe we're not talking enough about him. I know you talked about the quality of depth at the corner spot. He's got to be a part of that.
Yeah.
As a freshman.
He's what? He's 6'2".
So skinny, dude. He's like a walking toothpick, but he's very athletic and very fun to watch line up.
And not talked about a lot. They don't have Jaden Allen, who's another true freshman who played some first team in the spring at corner.
That's true.
And I heard with him coming out of Alito High School in Texas that he was going to be good, but he's got a leg issue that's probably going to keep him out the season. So that's another freshman who could have contributed who's not going to be there.
Yep.
And on the offensive line, Zuri Madison, torn ACL. So that's a scholarship offensive lineman that they don't have this year. So I don't know if I think he's counted into the 13. So technically they might just have 12 because Madison's done for the year.
Yeah.
So I haven't even thought about that, to be honest.
I hadn't either. Yeah. Well, they were already thin enough there, and we're making them thinner. Just thinking about it. We're yeah. Well, hopefully they can get it straightened out. And again, like I said earlier about the offensive line, I like their starters, but it's just behind them that has me concerned. But we know tight end, good Lord, stacked. I think, anyways. Receiver room, I would say the talent there is better than I thought coming out of spring camp. I mean, I get that it's a lot of guys that are returning, but I'm impressed that a lot of what they did through spring camp carried into fall camp. And that's usually a pretty good sign. So I don't know. But I'm excited, man. I know you are too. We got football this weekend, baby. I'm all about it. Let's go.
Florida State, Georgia Tech. I guess that's the game that everybody's excited about.
And I've said Georgia Tech, and I heard Ty Richardson this morning say he's not interested at all in that game. And I'm like, what are you kidding me? Georgia Tech's actually kind of turning it around.
Yeah, didn't they get a good quarterback?
They did. Well, yeah, they've got oh my gosh, A&M. That's my team in the open league. Haynes King, who's fast on the game. I know he was quick coming out of high school. He's very fast on EA College Football 2.5. I got to run the RPO more with him.
Hey, SMU plays this weekend, and there's a good handful of former Razorbacks on that team, I believe. Tank Booker's on that team.
SMU plays this weekend?
Yep. They play Nevada. Andrew Chambly.
Oh, that's right.
Andrew Chambly, Paris Patterson, and we all know Rhett Lashley's the head coach. There's been a thread on our message board all week about would Rhett Lashley come back to Arkansas.
I know, like I said that was our last topic, but that has been, if I had a short list, Rhett Lashley's on it.
Rhett Lashley is on it. It's tough. He's in a tough spot because one, SMU just moved to the ACC, so you got a legit conference backing you now.
And it's a pretty tough schedule. Shockingly, it's actually I think pretty tough.
Yeah. I mean the NIL there. Everybody knows the NIL at SMU is awesome.
Yeah.
And then also, just from an optics perspective, would you want to hire another coach from SMU? Yeah. It's not like that shouldn't matter at all, but it does.
It does. It certainly does. Because of it's like voodoo, right? Like you had Chad Morris, and we saw how that unfolded. But I think, rationally looking at it, it's got to be a case by case, not looking at just the school. That's not SMU's fault. I mean, he was there 3 years. He had one decent year. Yeah. However, Rhett Lashley, I mean, God, he's done so well recruiting. Out of the portal, he always puts a finished, good-looking product on the field. I watched them a little bit last year. They're I don't know what they go this year. It could be like an 8-4 for them, but that's still huge considering the talent. The difference in talent between them and you look at who they play. They got to play at Louisville. They got Florida State, TCU, Pitt, who I think could be surprisingly good. They've got to go on the road at Virginia, which is always a tough place to play, no matter how good or bad they are. So, but if I think he's got to be on your short list.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if they drop a turd this year, then you're probably not.
Thing. We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
We are. First, Sam's got to get fired.
Yeah.
Not that we're calling for that.
I remember last year after the Ole Miss game, we were driving back just talking and. Because that was a tough game, and we were just talking about what names would be on the big board. And at that point, we were like, Deion Sanders has to be number one for sure. Like, you have to make Deion Sanders say no. And then what happened to Colorado happened. So that's like, you can't get ahead of yourself with stuff like that.
That's fair. And we don't know what Arkansas does this year. They could really surprise people. And I've had to go on the record last week and say I'm not calling for Sam to get fired. I don't want him fired. It just seems like something that logically it makes sense when you put it all out there. Here's what could happen. This is not an easy schedule. Even though you don't play Bama or Georgia, you still got a really rough go of it, and it is the SEC.
Yep. So, I mean, I think everybody who follows Arkansas football understands what's on the line this year.
Yeah.
So there's that's what's so exciting about it, man. Last year, I don't know. If you're an Arkansas football fan, you're always excited about it. But this year, it's maybe just a little bit more exciting. One, you got Petrino. So, that's obviously just in and of itself just awesome.
It's crazy.
But two, it's just getting to see what happens. We've been talking about it literally since the end of the Missouri game last year. And so, now you're at this point. The season's about to start. Now we get to finally have our questions answered of can they really figure this out, or are you going to have a lot of change moving forward?
Yeah.
And you'd rather not have change, to be honest with you. As much as people want it, it's never something you want to go through. So
it's good for our business.
It's
good for what we do.
You think John Calipari getting hired wasn't good for business?
Oh my gosh.
That was good for business. It's obviously then it takes our job up a level to we have to step it up because it is John Calipari. It is a national brand.
Yeah.
So while it is good for business, we also have to get better at business. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Mason, man, I know you've got things to do, and I appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to stop by and talk with us.
Yeah, dude. I could do this all day, honestly.
I could too. I really could. It's why I do what I do, and I know it's why you do what you do. We love covering the Razorbacks, and I'm hoping that I'll tell you what else is good for business is when they win. That's better. That's better.
I don't know, dude. We did some clicks last year with the
coaching change.
No, not the coaching change. The Eno situation, the Polar Express incident was a clicks factory.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that.
They were doing so bad, but there was off the field stuff going on.
Oh, I forgot all about the Polar Express.
And as stupid as it sounds, you have to write that story.
Yeah.
Why are you watching the Polar Express at halftime? Turns out it's just the walk-on locker room. They were never going to play anyways.
Yeah.
But how does that picture get out?
Yeah.
Those are things that, as stupid as they are, they had to be written.
Yeah.
And they did numbers. But you're right. Winning cures everything. So
it does, and it creates excitement and hype. Fans are much more willing to click and read an article, watch a video, join your board, join Discord when things are going good. And but I one way or another, we're going to have something to write about this year. We're going to have something to talk about. I think this is going to be a crazy year, one way or another. So,
and in college football in general too, right? 12-team playoff.
Oh my gosh. Colorado, what's going to happen this year? Colorado,
Michigan, Michigan looks so much different. Bama, Nick Saban's not there anymore. There's a lot going on, man. Oregon's in the Big Ten? That's crazy. Same with Washington. There's so many different things that are just going to make college football so much more interesting this year. It's a lot to keep up with too, man. It's become so difficult.
Yeah, it has. There's so many moving parts now.
Yeah.
Where the argument with Pittman lies is how much improvement according. Okay, I read that different. I thought he was implying that Pittman was lying about something. Okay, where the argument lies according to wins. Okay, yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna put a cap on this one. We're gonna end it right here. Again, Mason, appreciate you. You guys make sure you follow him on Twitter. It's at Choate Mason, right?
Yep. CHOATEMASON.
I'm sure they're already following you, but go follow them if you're not. And of course, go check out what they're doing over at Hogbeat. They do good stuff. They write really well. They write good articles over there. They cover the Hogs, and you've got a really good staff. So it's always great talking to you and seeing you at practice as well, my man. Hopefully they'll let us back in at some point.
If they make a bowl, I assume we'll get some bowl practices in. So
better than nothing. I don't like driving all the way into town every single day, but yeah, I'd like to see them get some footage.
I would, as long as it's not like the Liberty Bowl, dude, because nobody wants to watch you play in the Liberty Bowl. But maybe just with where the Arkansas football program is at, you would be elated to just watch them play some postseason football. So,
yeah. More practice reps for the guys. I always look at it from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Bowl practices are huge for the freshmen, right? So it would benefit the team for sure. And obviously, you're playing in a bowl game, so that would be awesome too.
Yeah, would be. So hopefully we get, and if that does happen, we get to be there. Hopefully. So.
Well, hey, if everything goes, as best as it possibly could, we're covering a playoff game on campus this year.
There you go.
Sick. That would be sick.
There's your clicks right there, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Mason. It was good talking to you, man. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man. Had a
Take
good time.
it easy.
All right, you too.
All right, good to have him on. I'm telling you, he's always got really good takes. Why I like having him on. Again, go follow him on Twitter and go check out their board. Go check out Hogbeat. And of course, special shout out for helping make this possible. Patreon supporters, all you guys, thank you so much for being supporters. Remember to, if you want in on legendary status, you know what to do. You gotta sign up for it if you want in on those cards, on those autographed cards. And of course, a special shout out to our sponsors, Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company. They offer same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes, hundreds of 5-star reviews. Give them a call today at 501-244-3667. And their link is provided for you down below. And of course, Insurance Max, who offers business, personal, life, and health insurance, retirement plans. They shop the best rates for you, covering all 4 corners of our wonderful state. We didn't get into any basketball. I thought about putting in a little bit of Cal Park because I know we got some schedule talk coming up. We'll probably, maybe I'll bring that up with Ty Richardson tomorrow, but we do have Ty Richardson. It's scheduled at 4 p.m. tomorrow. If you want to come in, ask some questions, come be a part of the show, feel free to, just be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Shout out to Arkansas Sports Network as well, by the way. If you guys are watching this, well, you're not, because I'm not streaming it on ASN because I'm unable to, but I will drop this video over on ASN. Make sure you're following them as well. But I'll make sure to post this video and tomorrow's video over on Arkansas Sports Network. But yeah, no, we'll have Ty on and we'll get some more audience questions for him, and I'm sure we'll talk football and basketball, knowing Ty. So they've got a new show, or I should say they've got a new morning segment on that station, and Ty and Tommy Kraft are moving to the 9 a.m. So I know he's excited about that, and I'm sure we'll touch on that just a little bit. But again, I appreciate all you guys on your way out. Make sure you like the stream, share the content, and hit the subscribe button if you're new. All right, I'll see you guys in Discord. I know you guys are pinging me to death about these death wheel spins. They're coming up. I promise you. Let me get a little lunch in my belly. Watch a little bit of some TV, and then I'll get to your spins, I promise. All right, I will see you guys. Well, for those of you not in Discord, I'll see you tomorrow right here on Tuss Talk with Ty.